Dear brothers and sisters, we are often tempted to think that creation is our property, a possession that we can exploit as we please, and for which we must account to no one. So today we will think of, in this hope we were saved. Let us first of all listen to a passage from Romans chapter 8, verses 19 to 27. All of creation waits with eager longing for God to reveal His sons. For creation was condemned to lose its purpose, not of its own will, but because God willed it to be so. Yet there was the hope that creation itself would one day be set free from its slavery to decay and would share the glorious freedom of the children of God. For we know that up to the present time, all of creation groans with pain, like the pain of childbirth. But it is not just creation alone which groans. We who have the Spirit as the first of God's gifts also groan within ourselves, as we wait for God to make us His sons and set our whole being free. For it was by hope that we were saved. But if we see what we hope for, then it is not really hope. For who hopes for something he sees? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. In the same way, the Spirit also comes to help us, weak as we are, for we do not know how we ought to pray. The Spirit Himself pleads with God for us in groans that words cannot express. And God, who sees into our hearts, knows what the thought of the Spirit is, because the Spirit pleads with God on behalf of His people and in accordance with His will. In this passage we have just heard, Paul reminds us that instead, creation is a wondrous gift that God has placed in our hands so that we may enter a relationship with Him and we may recognize in it the imprint of His loving plan, the fulfillment of which calls us all to work together day after day. It's not our property. It is entrusted to our care, and we need to be accountable. However, when a human being allows himself to succumb to selfishness, he ends up defacing even the most beautiful things that have been entrusted to him. When a person becomes selfish, the destruction of creation takes place. And this has also happened with creation. It's no secret. We know it is selfishness that has destroyed the beautiful creation of God. Let us think about water. Water is something beautiful and very important. It cannot be made in labs. It's a creation of God. Water gives us life. It helps us in everything. But in order to exploit minerals, water is contaminated. Creation is sullied and creation is destroyed. This is just one example. There are many others. See, abortion. And there are so many life issues that are based on selfishness, that destroy the life of the world. And there are many others with the tragic experience of sin, our broken communion with God. We have shattered the original communion with all that surrounds us, and we have ended up by corrupting creation, thereby rendering it a slave, subjugated to our short-sightedness. Unfortunately, the result of all this is dramatically before our eyes every day. The change in climate, the heat wave, the storms, everything is a sign of our interference with the creation due to our selfishness. When communion with God is broken, man loses his original beauty and ends up disfiguring everything around him. And whereas before everything referred to the Father Creator and His infinite love, all is now marked by the sad and desolate sign of pride and human greed. And it is no secret, we are into this plight, into destruction in our country because of human greed, greed of our leaders. Human pride in exploiting creation destroys. The Lord, however, does not leave us on our hand, even in this distressing context. He offers us a new prospect of freedom, of universal salvation. It is what Paul highlights joyfully, inviting us to listen to the groans of the whole of creation. Indeed, if we pay attention, around us everything is groaning. Creation itself groans. We human beings groan, and the Holy Spirit groans within us in our heart. Now, these groans are not a barren, disconsolate lament, but the apostle explains they are the groaning of a woman in labor. They are the groans of those who suffer, but know that a new life is about to be born. And all these groanings are there, and it's a sign that something new is to be born. A new life is about to be born. And in our case, it is truly so. We are still gripped by the consequences of our sin, and everything around us still bears the sign of our weariness, of our shortcomings, of our closure. At the same time, however, we know we have been saved by the Lord, and that we have already been able to contemplate and to foretaste in ourselves and in what surrounds us the signs of the resurrection, of Easter, which brings about a new creation. This is the content of our hope. We were afraid few years back of COVID, and we were not sure of living, but still we are living, because even through those challenges, God brings us new life. And still the world goes on with much better planning. That is what is important. The Christian does not live outside of this world. He knows how to recognize in his life and in what surrounds him the signs of evil, of selfishness and of sin. He is in solidarity with those who suffer, with those who weep, with those who are marginalized, with those who are despair, who are hopeless. However, at the same time, the Christian has learned to read all of this with the eyes of Easter, with the eyes of the risen Christ. Thus he knows that we are living in the time of waiting, the time of longing which transcends the present, the time of fulfillment. In hope, we know that the Lord wants to definitively heal with His mercy the wounded and the humiliated hearts, and all that man has spoiled by his impiety. And in this way, He generates a new world and a new humanity. Finally, reconciling them in His love. How often are we Christians tempted to give in to disappointment, to pessimism? At times we allow ourselves to resort to pointless complaining, or we remain speechless and do not even know what to ask for, what to hope for. Yet once more, however, the Holy Spirit, the breath of our hope, who keeps the groans and the expectation alive in our heart, comes to help us. The Spirit sees for us beyond the negative semblance of the present. He already reveals to us the new heavens and the new earth that the Lord is preparing for mankind. Dear friends, in the Old Testament we see during the time of Noah, when the whole world was evil, God wiped all the evil, but He did not destroy the universe. He created a new generation through Noah. And with Jesus, He did the same thing. When it was time, when everything was evil, He sent His only Son, through whose death we were given new life. And we live in that hope. The present tribulations, the present sadness, the present destruction of the creation will come to an end. And as people of hope, we hope in the new heavens and the new earth that is to come with Jesus. Let us trust Him. The destructions cannot destroy us. Let us work at it with faith and trust and be sensitive to the groanings of the creatures of God. May God bless you.